Drooms has got as many women as men committed to the Drooms values: trust, innovation, excellence, and passion. And my guests today have got a lot to tell us about these three values. So, pioneering paths. We're going to talk today about approaching networking and career advancement, overcoming leadership challenges, and how we adapt our skills in the ever-changing landscapes, and how we bring inclusivity into the workplace. And topics I'm sure that everyone's been thinking about, whether you're a junior or a senior executive, and everything that we can relate to, finding new ways to adapt and new skills to bring us where we want to be in our careers. So I'm Josie, and I've certainly been challenged to come up with some new approaches and strategies to those areas of my career in technology over the past 23 years. So I focused my entire career in largely male-dominated sectors in companies like LexisNexis in legal IT and in Amazon AWS. And I have felt like a pioneer when I've been managing teams in different countries, people in my teams who are older than me, younger than me, across different time zones. And I'm sure that you've all asked yourselves, like I have, how can I do things differently? So 3 pioneering women who've asked themselves many times how they did things differently. I'd like to introduce you to them. They're going to share some insights. So starting with Jette Beauregard, an associate partner in the construction industry, Drees and Sommer. Marlies, Zwols, managing director of Oz Architect. And Susanne Jakub, investment manager of PBB Invest. So, Jette, our French connection. You've been living between France and the UK. Tell us about that.
Oh, I have indeed. Just to give you a little bit of my background. So, I'm a civil engineer. I've not done a single day of civil engineering in my working life. I walked in the office first day and was told I'd be a project manager. And I said, what's a project manager? So started as a project manager, still a project manager today. So growing up, first project, giving away a little bit of my age, working with Eurotunnel at the very beginning, building my way up to do more and more complex projects, more and more multiple projects, until I became a team leader. I then started managing the people that were managing the projects and slowly grew until I became managing director first of Drees and Sommer in the UK. And then once we'd integrated with AA projects, I then was asked to manage the French office. So now managing France, part of a big team of Drees and Sommer, 7,000 people now. It's grown massively since I've been there for 2.5 years. So now trying to help those in the team grow so I can move on and hopefully retire one day.
Thanks, Jette. Any thoughts on Brexit?
Well, I would do. You say the French connection, but I'm actually British. I am now French, thanks to Brexit.
Thank you. And Marlies from the Netherlands, tell us how you've been working to keep architecture alive.
That's a big statement. Also to give you some background of where I come from, I started my career in interior architecture, which is a field with a lot of women. And then I went on to architecture, where I was, in the studies, it's like 50-50. Once you get into the work field, you're one of the few women still into the field. From there on, I just kind of fell into project management, studied marketing just to do something different, and ended up as the managing director of an architecture firm. But what I see, if you look broader into the role and position of architects in the Netherlands, but I think this is more general issue in other countries in Europe, is that our assignments get smaller and smaller, so it's more difficult to keep a good team together, to get the quality that you want to do, the projects that you want to make. So my purpose started with building a good team and increasing resilience, hiring the best architects, the best technical designers, And from there on, I thought, okay, in order to do that, we need good assignments. So I started kind of combating clients for better assignments, better regulations, better conditions. And from there on, I just kind of thought, okay, we need to go bigger. So I started a networking group with other architects in the Netherlands to say, okay, we need to work together. I always say we are competitors 3% of our time. The rest of the time we're in the same boat. So please, let's row together. And then I also engaged myself into the Royal Dutch Institute of Architects to promote entrepreneurship under architects. So just kind of grew organically into all sorts of things.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing. Getting bigger, we talk a lot in our team about 10x, so I think I'll hit you up for some strategies around that later. And Marlies, from Susanne from Germany, 18 years of international business. You've jumped into something completely different recently. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, in all, in the real estate business, I'm already since 29 years. And then after my business administration degree, 10 years later, I passed a master in international real estate management in London. And that was really the entry card to the international investment business. And that I've done in Frankfurt the last 18 years with focus on the UK, Belgium, Luxembourg and Switzerland. And then I got really the proposal, the challenge last summer, really to move to Deutsche Pfandbriefbank, who has really created a new investment arm, PBB Invest, where we are trying to launch 2 new funds this year with a team of 6 senior people. And I found it extremely interesting to bring in my knowledge of the last 29 years, especially the last 18 years in investment, really to create a new product. And that is quite a challenge in a turbulent market, but highly exciting and interesting. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. No, that is a big challenge, and I'm sure lots of people think about changing, so we'll talk about that, changing roles, later. All right, so show of hands. Anybody ask themselves about these topics recently? Leadership, strategies, new ways to adopt, changing roles. Yeah, nodding heads and hands. Good, we're going to find out some more. So how crucial to my panel has networking been in career progression? What strategies do you recommend when we're talking about networking? I remember when I was a junior just starting out in marketing, I hated networking. I would go and sit in the toilet and I would wait for the buffet to be over, or I'd just take my phone to my ear and pretend to have a really important call so I could avoid the networking. It used to make my skin crawl. So let's start with Susanne. Tell us about networking.
Yeah, networking during my career was very crucial. I'm member of 3 different networks, Women in Real Estate, since year 2000, and the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, and then my alumni network. And first of all, I really like to connect, and it's very important to hear about business opportunities, about job opportunities, and for me it was always extremely helpful. And what I would recommend is really, especially to female professionals, to join networks as early as possible, already at school, already at university. And as mentioned, I'm 30 years in the business now, and at my time at university, networking was something really quite male at university, but I think things have really changed, fortunately, and therefore, my recommendation, jump in as soon as you can. Yeah.
Start early, that's good. And Marlies, networking, any advice?
Yeah, I recognize what you said about first times and sitting at the back of the room, not being afraid to cross over to meet people. And I realized I started at the wrong place, because networking is not just about moving up the ladder, it's about sharing knowledge, finding people that do the same thing that you do, and find out how you can do it smarter together. So it's more about finding peers at first, and maybe mentors later, or finding... So you have to start where you're comfortable, because that's the way you connect to people, and networking is all about connection and about building trusted relationships. And I think you can just grow from there.
Yeah, I agree. Connecting, that's the open and honesty and connecting. Marlies, Jette, any final thoughts on networking?
So I would say I'm exactly like yourself. I really don't enjoy networking. It's part of the work that I find the most difficult to do. Going up to people, talking to people, finding the small talk to talk to people, I really struggle. I've actually done throughout my career differently without doing it on purpose. My networking is more between the people I've worked with, the teams I've had below me, my managers. You know, you never know where people are going to go in the future. Very often, people from my team, they're now clients of mine. You know, my team said to me, "You've got so many connections," and I said, "It's people who worked with me. It's people who I've worked with in the past." So it's really important, I'd say, especially in today's age, to actually go to the office, meet the people you're working with. One, you'll have the support. Two, you'll get to know them. And I'd say, three, you never know where you're going to find them. I'll give you a really good example. My head of real estate, who was here earlier, 2 months ago, she said to me, "I've got an appointment with Air France, head of international construction." So the top of Air France for any construction work that they're going to do. And I said, "How on earth did you manage that?" And she said, 15 years ago, he was my student. So just, you know, you never know where they're going to appear later on in life. So really, really work your network, not only at events like MIPIM or wherever, but every day in the office or on a project or on a deal or whatever. So,
How do you network? LinkedIn, telephone calls, Christmas party invites? Anybody? I'm throwing it open to the panel.
All of the above. It's not just about, I mean, you've also studied, and your group of friends, they kind of went into all sorts of different directions. So when I have my New Year's, we have a New Year's retreat with a lot of friends, and they're all somewhere in the construction industry or the real estate industry, and you just kind of exchange knowledge, even there, apart from just having fun together.
It's really good. I wish you guys had been around in my first networking days. So, the essential qualities for successful leadership. You're all incredible, inspiring leaders. What do you think makes an essential quality for a leader? Let's start with, well, Jette, keep the microphone. What do you think?
keep going. What I found is that you have to be very hardworking. You don't reach the top by sitting back, doing nothing, not meeting people. You've got to work hard. Sometimes you do have to sacrifice, which I unfortunately had to do on a personal basis. I would work as hard as I could during the week, and then at the weekend it was family time. And that really helped me to concentrate, put things in boxes. I'm doing one thing and now I'm doing the other bit. So it can be quite a bit of sacrifice, unfortunately.
Yeah, sacrifice. I hear you. Marlies, how about you? Any tips on essential qualities for successful leadership?
Well, I totally agree with Jette. You have to do the work, but you have to have the knowledge about the product or the service that you're providing, and in-depth knowledge. You have to know what your company is doing and what you stand for. You have to know what other people in your surroundings are doing, what their interests are, what their risks are, in order to provide the best service. And just to come back to you, I think it's amazing that you made such a huge sacrifice. For me, it doesn't have to be that extreme. I think having a very good relationship with your partner and good organizing skills. You can also see your children during the week. So for me, it was a little bit different because I lived very close to my work. But I think to grow in your career, you need a good partner and very good communication to get the family life balanced.
I agree. A good partner. If anybody knows any single men between over the age of 54, let's have a separate networking on that. So, Susanne, anything about essential qualities for leadership?
Yeah, I definitely share the opinions of both ladies. I think knowledge and knowledge combined with lifelong learning. Our business is really changing constantly. When you see the topics like digitalization, sustainability, artificial intelligence, you really have to keep pace also when you're getting older and really to see the trends, also future trends coming. And what I would also underline is passion for the product. I'm now 30 years in the business and I still like it very much. You are confronted with commercial topics, with technical topics, with legal topics, and every time when you're starting a new project, you find problems or topics which you have never seen before and which you really have to solve. And therefore, I think when you identify with something, what you're doing, then you're also good. And
Yeah, thank you. No, I agree. If we'll think back to the time that we had, how we got here, where we started and where we came from, some pivotal moments or any decisions that shaped our careers. When I think back, I was a marketing manager and I'd only just become a marketing manager, and my boss, she wasn't the director, she was senior manager, and she left. She left in a sudden, and I was asked to step into her role, and I really was very green. And our event was in Macau, and we had to go to Singapore and then Macau to do an event, and I had no idea what to do, and I had to take planes and boats to get there, and I'd never worked abroad before, and all of a sudden I was doing it. I'd stepped into her role, and it was a pivotal moment because the team, well, first of all, there was no one else to do it and we paid for it, but they believed in me. They believed that I could. And because somebody else believed that I could, then I realised, oh, maybe I could believe that I could as well. Yeah. So pivotal moments. Marlies, tell us about self-belief and any moments when you realised you were believing in yourself.
Yeah, when you asked me that question, I really had to dig deep. But I think there's 3 moments that defined my path. The first one was after 2 years of starting my first job, interior architecture, and I came into a similar type of a situation where I was left in a mess, and I had to find a way out, and there was no other way to get out of it but to do what I thought was right. So stop carrying out orders, but look into yourself and say, okay, in this situation, what would I want to do or hear, instead of interpreting your boss and then always getting it wrong, of course, because you're not exactly like your boss. So that starting to really think for myself, that was first. Second, was the moment that I realized that others are not doing a better job than I do. Because I was always thinking I'm going to fall through the cracks somewhere. So it was like after 10 years, more or less, of working, I started realizing there's a lot of people who are doing a worse job than I am. So just keep going. I'm fine. And then about 2 years ago, I guess, I realized that stepping into a leadership role, you can never please everyone. So it does not help anybody to just kind of keep rolling in that feeling that you have to please everybody. You just have to let it roll off.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. I'm swapping sides. And to stop carrying out orders, that really resonates. Jette, what do you think? Pivotal moments, decisions that shaped your journey.
I think we all have lots of pivotal moments. We don't necessarily realise it's a pivotal moment. If I have to think of one, it's probably when I was a team leader. I had a team of 8 people, and all of a sudden I found that I was given a second team, so my team doubled, and I couldn't understand why. So I was like, why am I doubling? What's happening? So I spoke to my director, and he just turned to me and looked at me and said, Jette, you're a role model. You show what needs to be done and people follow you. And I thought, wow. And I actually then started to believe in myself and realised that I could actually do more than I thought I was doing.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
Very hard.
Susanne, any thoughts? Your approach?
yeah, I have maybe a funny story. After my MBA, I passed a week in Paris with women in real estate. And we were walking around in the city, visiting quite a lot of properties and property developers, and I heard speeches, presentations from lawyers, and I was absolutely fascinated. And one lady who was presenting one project, I said to her, wow, that is exactly the job I would like to do. And I have just passed my master, had English, French and Spanish skills. And she said, yes, we are just searching acquisition managers. Simply send your application And I knew in this second that I really wanted to do that. And I sent the application even before my application photo was developed. And 1 week later, I had the job. But you really have to make yourself then independent from all external things. I think I moved in my life 12 times. But when you really want to do something, and I knew I wanted to work internationally, and that was absolutely the right decision in that second. Yeah.
That's a really good example, thank you. I think pivotal moments, they're really important for us to stop and consider. But we've also had hurdles to overcome and hurdles to face. I'm sure when I say hurdles, you can all think of many examples. One being the gender pay gap. I know certainly being a female in tech for nearly 25 years, the gender pay gap, I've had some conversations with employers about that in my early days. Susanne, keeping the microphone, what are your thoughts on the gender pay gap?
Yeah, I really experienced it at the beginning of my career. Normally in Germany, you are not talking quite a lot about salaries, but this was a situation where the company was getting a little bit into trouble. Everybody was thinking about the future or even legal advice or whatever. And then you are suddenly overnight, you are speaking about personal things. And I was a little bit shocked to see that my male colleagues who had more or less the same age, the same educational background, and performance was also more or less the same, that they really earned 20% more than I did, and that is 25 years ago. And I overcame it really, that I searched very quickly a new job, but I was much more cautious about these aspects. And especially coming from a traditional background, you don't need to be shy in this respect, and really to state a realistic but good request from the very beginning. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure it resonates with everyone in the room. What about loneliness moving into a leadership position? No longer, one of the team being invited to the parties. You're the boss of the team. Marlies, do you think it's lonely moving into a senior leadership role?
At first it is. I wish somebody would have prepared me for that. Because if you're moving from a team that you were part of, I didn't change company. I just grew in the same company. So you're moving from the team, being one of the team, into somebody that the conversation stops when you come to the coffee machine. And they look at you differently and they criticize your decisions. So it can be very lonely. And I wish somebody would have told me that so I could have my network in place and because it took me a while, a couple of months at least, to realize that this was what I was struggling with. So I could, of course, having a good network, find my support in different areas.
Yeah, it's really helpful to have conversations like this. Sometimes it's nothing we can put our finger on until we realise it, or someone says it's probably just a bit lonely at the top.
Yeah, your progression in your job is not just about your assignment and the money you get or whatever. It's also an emotional thing.
That's right. And Jette, pioneering in the construction industry, have you faced any hurdles? What's your view?
To be very honest, I don't feel as if I've really hit any hurdles. I've actually found being a woman in a man's industry has really helped me. Having to prove myself at the beginning, really important. But once I've proved myself, I've always found it easier than most of my male colleagues, because I could just go to somebody with a big smile and just say, "Can you help me, please?" You've got to know when you can use it. So I honestly, no real hurdles. It's been difficult. Had to prove myself, but once proved, I think it becomes easier actually than for men. So
asking for help is a really big topic. And I think when we talk about asking for help, we don't want to do it. They're funny words. Maybe we could put it in a different way. It's not really about asking for help. It's not always about admitting that there's something we don't know. Maybe it's more about mentorship and career growth and evolution. And again, it's back to networking. So sticking with the microphone, Jette, I believe you've got some long history with mentorship. Tell us about that.
So I've never gone and asked somebody to be my mentor, but from the age of 19, I worked on a building site during my summer holidays. One 19-year-old young lady, 500 men, no other women on the building site, and I was doing my job. I was setting out the theodolite and looking, doing what my manager had told me to do, and I heard a man shout at me saying, "You, here, now. And I was like, ooh, what happened? So I went over and spoke to him, and he said, what are you doing standing next to a 40-foot drop? Because my manager had put me outside of the safe area, thinking I'd be safer the other side of the barrier, next to a big hole, than standing next to where the trucks were going backwards and forwards. So he was the head of construction of the site, of all the people, and he took me under his wing, and he taught me everything, he showed me everything, and I went everywhere with him, and I learnt so much from him. He was probably my first. I've had lots of others, never said, you're my mentor, but every time it's just somebody who supported me and helped me to understand what I'm doing and learn what the business is.
Yeah.
And I have to say, they've all been men, but very young age, I was the only woman about, so.
Great story. I'm glad you didn't fall into the hole.
So am I. I think he was too.
Marlies, do you think it's helpful for young people to be influenced by people as they're coming up? Maybe teachers, parents?
Yes, very. As we discussed yesterday, I read this article from Harvard Business Review about the importance of having strong examples in your youth, because they kind of give you this basic confidence that something is within reach. And I think we still have quite a long way to go for everybody to have this confidence. But my mentors have not been only male. I've also had female mentors, both male and female. But what I really saw from my female mentors, starting with my mother, is how to work a career and a family and manage that. And I've seen some really strong women, not so much in architecture, but in the real estate industry, let's say, because you have to look a little bit broader than just architecture. But they give you a way to go. Yeah. So
that's really, really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Susanne, have you been a mentee or a mentor?
I would call it a light mentorship. It was somebody in a leading position, but quite far away from my own business. But always when I needed good advice, there was somebody I could ask from time to time, and I found that extremely helpful. And what I really like is to see that today in female networks like Women in Real Estate, mentorships are offered, big companies are offering mentorships. And what I would really recommend today, really to approach really directly a person which you like, which is inspiring you, and people can only say no when they don't like, but many people feel flattered and maybe accept voluntarily to do that. And having a mentor is really something which is helpful, I think.
Yeah, I agree. We talk about safe spaces to fail, safe environments to ask questions that we perhaps don't feel comfortable asking our boss. If anybody's interested in being a mentor or wants to be a mentee, come and talk to us about the Drooms mentor-mentee scheme. You heard it here first. So my favourite topic, and something that I've struggled with in the past and I continue to think about as a leader, I've got a team of 11 right now. I'm on leadership teams and boards inside and outside of work. Difficult conversations and how to approach them. It never gets easier to have a difficult conversation. Let's start with Marlies. How do you approach someone with a disruptive tone?
Different ways, depending on how I feel my day. But basically, I don't identify with the problem on the table. So it's a business issue. It's not a personal issue. Once you make it personal, it becomes really difficult. So keep it separate from yourself. Stay calm, patience, and stay kind but direct. And I have to say, if people really give me a tone, which in our industry unfortunately happens quite often, then I just talk to them about the tone they're speaking to me, and that it's not constructive. And if they want to speak in this manner, we're not going to get anywhere. And sometimes even get off from the table and leave, if that's the way it is.
Jette, how do you handle difficult emails?
You learn from your mistakes, put it like that. conversations or emails, you need to take time to reflect. If you receive an email that is quite aggressive or really putting you in difficulty, don't respond immediately, because you will just give back an argument and it will just ping pong backwards and forwards. Take the time. If you want to feel like you need to get it out your system, write it, but don't send it. Keep it in your drafts, sleep on it, reread it the following morning, and then send it, because you will reread what you've written and realise how yourself actually being very defensive and aggressive. Choose the diplomatic words to make it sound better and resolve the solution.
Do you think that comes in time, the ability to stop yourself, to stop and think?
Sometimes we can be very reactive, and sometimes we want to do things quickly. So it's like, we'll receive an email, we want to send it back. No, just don't. Personally, I lost a very good friend who was an architect, who we were on a project together. He wrote me a very contractual email. I didn't stop and think. I responded straight back, being super hard, which was my role as project manager. And we find it difficult to talk since then. And it's a real shame, because he was a really good friend. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Susanne, have you ever come across people yelling in the workplace?
Only one time. I negotiated quite a lot of sale and purchase agreements the last years, and I think it's part of a negotiation that from time to time the tone is a little bit more aggressive, but at the end you're always coming normally to an agreement. But it was only one time that there was a guy who was since the very beginning a little bit choleric and who was really yelling in a negotiation. And in that moment, you can only try to stay calm and professional, take a deep breath, think of your yoga classes, and at the end, you can say you are always meeting twice in the business, and it's a question of professionality. And and I think it's also the best reaction when you're yelling back. It's not getting better, and then calm down, think of something else, and it's okay.
I'm sorry you had to experience yelling in the workplace. I hope nobody else has to come
also
across
new
that.
Experience, yeah.
Yeah. So, Susanne, keeping the microphone, what skill set or knowledge do you think is indispensable to have a thriving career?
Yeah, I think you have to have a very good basic knowledge in that. I think that is self-explanatory. I think IT skills have become very important over the last 20 years or even longer. Then I deem it very helpful to speak several languages, because even when you're in the German market, you have nevertheless foreign sellers or whatever. The business is getting more and more international. And talking about IT, artificial intelligence and things like that, you have to be curious to see what's getting on. And ESG, I think these are things in every due diligence which have become normal business. And and what else in kind of knowledge? Soft skills. I think your human resources are getting more and more rare. The chase for talents has started worldwide, and when you are somebody who is able to create a good relationship with employees and your surroundings, that is also something what is important, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Technology is always evolving. That's, again, back to mentor and mentee and learning from different people. Drooms has AI within the document, if you want to learn about AI. Marlies, what skill set or knowledge do you think is indispensable for a thriving career?
I think, apart from what you've already said, Susan, is you have to have a purpose. I mean, your purpose is not to gain power and money. Your purpose is to achieve something with other people. So something that is bigger than you, because that gains a trust, and you can work together, you can build something. It's you can excel at something if it's more higher than just the basics of what you're doing.
Bigger than us. I really like that. Jette, what do you think?
I think they've said quite a lot already, so it's quite difficult to add. The only extra point I would say is listen. You know, you said the soft skills, people skills. Listen to what people are saying, absorb it. You might not agree with them, but somehow or another They want to be understood. They've got their ideas. They've got their feelings. Listen and feed back to them. You would probably also say that becoming more into leadership and real leadership skills is actually being there to support others. Don't just delegate. Leave the door open and give them the chance to do something. People will make mistakes, but be there for them if they need your support.
I'm glad you brought up listening. Active listening, it's a skill that we can learn. It's something that we sometimes forget to do. I remember having a conversation about what is a C. You know, I'm as an SVP CMO myself, and I was often asking people, what is a C-level executive? And the best answer I ever heard was, it's someone who listens. It's someone, a C-level sits back and lets the rest of the room or their team or their colleagues and peers talk, so I can learn something every day that I didn't know. So listening, do you think it's easy to do?
Not always, and I do have to stop myself from trying to interrupt people because I kind of feel I know what they're going to say. I can do that with certain colleagues where we have half conversations. People don't understand what we're saying, but it's not always easy. But there's hearing and there's listening. You need to listen.
Hearing versus listening. There's an article in there somewhere. All right, so moving on to inclusivity and diversity, topics that we're all really concerned about. Let's have Marlies. What initiatives or steps do you recommend for fostering greater inclusivity and diversity?
Well, like I said before, you have to have greater inclusivity, of course, not just female, male, but a larger topic. But if for anybody, you have to have the trust in or the confidence in yourself to achieve things. And I think we approach this too much as taking a course in time efficiency and leadership and stuff like that. I think it's way more a process. So HR departments from companies should kind of see this as a long-term goal to make people more confident in their role, confident to step up to the plate and say, okay, it's my time. I'm going to pull this project. I'm going to lead this team. So we have to develop valuation systems that support the independence of our employees, let's say.
Do you feel like MIPIM is inclusive? Exclusive, it's very exclusive. Inclusive and diverse. Do you think there's a 90 versus
a rhetoric
10?
question?
It could be.
I think we're still very, as I think you said it yesterday, male and pale. I think that's a very great way to say it. But on the other hand, I realized walking home yesterday, because I walked past the Café Roma, and I was like, it's all men. And I thought, but there's also the other side, because we have women networking groups that men cannot join. But there are hardly any male groups anymore that women cannot join, or that women cannot join. So I thought, maybe we should give that back to them. Just a few, and then we have and then you combine it back together. But MIPIM is definitely not, but it's not different from Exporeal or Provada in the Netherlands or whatever it has to do with real estate.
Everyone in the audience, should we give it back to them? It's a good topic for afterwards when the camera's not rolling. Jette, what do you think? Fostering greater inclusivity and diversity in your teams?
So I think inclusivity, it's not just about men and women. It goes further than that. There's culture, there's abilities, there's a bit of everything. Having worked across Europe, I can see different countries are in different positions. UK is far ahead, I think, from anywhere else. We see far more women around than maybe in Germany. I'm not sure about the Netherlands, but France, it's growing, it's starting. I think UK sometimes going to an extreme. You're more likely to get a job if you're a woman than a man today, because we've got to have women on the board. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. I look at it very differently. I need the right person. I don't need a woman. I don't need a man. I need the right person to do the job they need to do. That's how I see it. Do we really think we'll ever get to 50-50? I don't think we will do immediately. Universities that we're going, the juniors coming out of now, it's not 50-50. You won't be able to see 50-50 on a board as yet. Universities now, they're probably 30, 70, 40, 60. So yes, I'd say in 10 years' time, we will be there. My generation, I think we were about 10%, and that's because 50% of the women were from Norway, who worked really hard, and there is a big difference in the Nordics compared to elsewhere. So
they are really interesting statistics, and especially when we compare countries. Susanne, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's not much to add. What you have mentioned was university, and I think at that stage, the women are controlling themselves the process. And what I always find a little bit sad, that in the MINT disciplines, the women are underrepresented, and there they shouldn't be shy, really to move in such a direction where normally the careers can be made. And a second topic, I don't have children, but I find it in Germany extremely hard for young mothers when I see that we have an enormous undersupply of kindergarten places and all that, and when you don't have anybody from your family supporting you, and that would be my wish, that these conditions are changing. But we are discussing such topics since more than 20, 30 years, and for the moment it has become even more difficult. That's my impression, but yeah.
Do we have lots of mothers in the room, that balance between working life and seeing the kids? You know, it has been a topic certainly here in this room today and on other days. Sticking with the microphone then, Susanne, where do you see opportunities for women in real estate in the next decade?
Quite honestly, Josie, I see them everywhere. I think you have technical disciplines, commercial, legal, as I have said, and that depends a little bit on your preference and what you like. And you only have to have a goal. Is that what you said? And where you are really following a clear strategy. AI, artificial intelligence, might be the next big mega trend. And I think you really have to follow the mega trends. And I think they are known, changing demographies and, as mentioned, IT and all that. When you have a little bit a look on these trends, you know where the journey is getting to. Yeah.
I absolutely agree. Marlies, where do you see opportunities for women in real estate?
No, I totally agree with Susan. I think the real estate sector is diversifying itself in types of jobs, types of specializations. And I think that brings immense opportunities to just find something that you really like and that you believe in, and then start to excel at that. So I think women and men can do all sorts, and there's less and less heavy jobs, you know, with robotization and digitalizing the work place. So I think that will be also an advantage.
Passion. When it doesn't feel like work. Yep. Salary helps with that. Jette, what do you think? The opportunities for women in real estate?
So I think there are some areas which are easier than others. We talked about it yesterday, architecture. There's a lot of women in architecture. There's a lot of women now coming into sustainability. I still feel there's a couple of areas where there's not quite so many women, probably more in the actual investment side, the funding side. I think that's a little bit harder for the women to join. So I think it really depends on what you're looking for and what you want to do. But there is opportunity there.
Yeah, I feel like there is. So we want to connect with you all. Find us on LinkedIn. Come and talk to us. Swap business cards. Is there still a place for LinkedIn? Are we still using LinkedIn? Jette, if you keep the microphone. Do you follow any influencers? Anyone that we could follow? Anyone you recommend?
So influencers, not really. I leave that to my kids because that's more their generation. I'm getting a bit old for that. Still on LinkedIn, and I must admit, I only actually joined LinkedIn in 2017 because I was obliged to join LinkedIn. I don't like people knowing what I do. But so mainly LinkedIn. And I have an amazing marketing manager who's sitting right in front of me who does me absolute wonders. So.
Raise your hand, amazing marketing manager. Is that you?
There. That's me.
I love that, thank you. Marlies, any people or groups or companies that inspire you that we can follow?
I really had to think about that because I follow a lot of different groups, just something that kind of connects, you know, at a certain point or in a certain project, and you think, wow, this person does this really well. Or sometimes I follow people because they communicate so beautifully. They make the most beautiful texts. And I think, oh, I wish I could do that. Or, but what I would recommend, apart from platforms, is to follow people with independent minds. So I follow, or I have subscriptions to independent media, because they can kind of shape your idea of the complexity of subjects instead of papers nowadays just telling you this is the truth, and you think, is it? I don't know. So it's, and just have fun on some social media with your personal stuff, and don't show it to your professional people.
That's good advice. Susanne, companies that inspire you, who can we follow? Who inspires you?
I must confess that I'm very conservative, and at school we still had to read 1984 from George Orwell. So my privacy was my privacy, and I joined LinkedIn really pretty late, and because I really discovered the benefits quite late, where I really didn't want to share anything before, but I think in current times it's absolutely important.
So thank you, panellists. We've got a few minutes for questions. We can pass the microphone around the room. Does anyone want to ask a question to this, I'm sure you'll agree, hugely inspiring panel? Anyone with a question? I'll come over with the microphone.
I'm so sorry, I missed the beginning, so I'm sorry if this has been covered. We talk a lot about getting women into the real estate industry, but one of the concerns that I have at the moment is that we're getting the women in. So I'm a lawyer, so at entry level it's nearly 50-50, and in some cases it's more women coming in. But there's a huge level of attrition as you get up to the senior levels, and the diversity at that level is awful. So do you guys have any views on what you're already doing or what we can do to kind of stop that loss of women in the real estate industry at that level?
Yeah. No, I think it's more in the lines of what I've said before is when women or girls or whatever age they are enter into a company, you need to immediately start giving them the confidence that they can do things, confidence in themselves, that they can grow, they can be independent, they can think for themselves, they have the right to speak, they have the ability to step up to the plate and lead teams or do stuff. I think that's this confidence, that's what you need when you, especially, from my experience, when I started a family, I needed this confidence to keep going and to make the right balance decisions.
Sorry, I'm also a lawyer, so we have the same problem. But what we have started to look at is to keep the senior is to be more creative with how we remunerate, because a lot of the time we lose senior women because they've gone off to have a family and they come back and they don't think they can do the job part-time. You absolutely can. But if you're going to do it part-time, do they want to take a 20% pay cut? Probably not, because they're going to be doing the work but squeezing it into 4 days. And our profession, a legal profession, is so archaic in how they think you have to remunerate, particularly at partner level. So what we're doing is trying to encourage the management to be a bit more creative in how you do that. And since we have started to offer different REM packages and different flexi packages, we've seen a huge retention at senior associate and partner level. But it has taken me banging a drum for about 4 years to do that. But yeah, because we're still really old school. But I think across all industries, creative REM is one of the keys, and creative flexibility in how you do that and how you work is the key to keeping female talent, is what we've found.
There you are touching a very valid point, and I think the pay cut of 20% often is related that you are not cutting your workforce by 20%, that you do it late in the evening, at the weekend or whatever, and that this is even expected, and really they're taking the drum and really makes that official. I think that is something what women can support from all angles. Yeah.
Sorry, just to add into this conversation, not a lawyer. So I'm a project manager, surveyor, sort of construction, a bit like Jette up there. And we're finding, I think the RICS did a survey a few years ago that showed when membership dropped, and it was all around sort of the late 30s, late 40s age, around family time and menopause. So we've started to look at what transferable skills people have. A lot of women don't come into the industry knowing that construction and real estate is a path they want to take. They come out of school, they do the sort of standards that people push them to. Finding out now that women in their 30s, 40s, amazing, that can now be put into the real estate industry at a senior level. So, for example, IT project manager, you've got the soft skills to actually bring that into the real estate. You swat up on your construction knowledge, and suddenly you could be a really good project manager in a really high leadership position. So actually, we're focusing on schools, but we're trying to also focus on this return to work kind of age, where people go have families, they stop working completely, and they have to come out and look for new, more flexible careers. But it's an amazing skill set that's really suited to real estate and property. The opportunities are there. Somewhere we can start to focus on a bit more to get women in the industry.
Thank you for that. The microphone has given up the ghost. Any more questions? A few minutes. Any more questions?
Can I just respond on a point, just very quickly on that? And I think flexibility is really important to allow people to go home a bit earlier because they've got to collect the kids. If they want to do a little bit of work in the evening, do a little bit of the work in the evening. But I would say it's not only the women who need to do that. Men should be given the opportunity to. And a lot of them are doing it now. In the UK, you see it more and more. A number of people in my team say, I've got to be home at 6:30. That's fine. Do it. Go for it. It's your child. But I would say equal opportunities both ways.
Yeah, and I also think Corona helped in that, at least in our team, because working more and more from home at a certain time, we're now used to being flexible at where to do the work, as long as the work gets done. And then we do ask people to come in, because you have to have this team feeling and community and do the work together. But if part of your work is done from home, that's fine. Doesn't matter who you are or which position.
Agreed. We actually used to work as a team pre-COVID that people could work from home 2 days a week anyway, because if you needed to get work done, sometimes it's just better to get work done. When I go into the office, I don't plan to do anything, just so people can come and talk to me, just be present.
Sorry, can I just say one thing in relation to what you just said? I totally agree that I think this isn't a women's issue anymore. We need the men to be given those opportunities, but also to take them. They're either not willing to take them because they think it'll impact their career, or they don't want to, because let's face it, it's hard work rushing out of work to pick the kids up. I mean, I had a male colleague who's just had a baby, and I'm actually really quite annoyed that on his out of office, he has not put that he's on paternity leave. I think he's kind of got a duty to do that, because it shows all the other men that he's on extended paternity leave. It's not going to impact his career. So I think we need to get the men on board and actually get them recognising it's their duty, the senior men as well. It's not just for all of us to say, yes, I leave work to go and pick my kids up. They've got to do it as well with us.
Totally agree.
I'll shut up now.
Sorry. No, I think it's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, last one.
Comment actually, because it fits so nicely. My husband is directly right out there with our child. He is a partner in a law firm, and it just happened to be that we are both in real estate. I'm a tax advisor and he is a lawyer, and he is right now with our almost 2-year-old son out there, giving me the opportunity to be here today. And we decided not to skip MIPIM. We decided not to that either he or myself coming. We decided to come both, and we decided that we will split, we will enjoy, we will do the best out of it, we will do this in the most efficient way that we can. And we even started actually thinking about arranging for maybe like initiative to arrange for a daycare for exactly like working parents, to actually enable everyone, doesn't matter woman or man, actually to come and to make the opportunities and make use of this MIPIM event in this way.
That's beautiful.
MIPIM minis. So That's marketing. If anybody wants to join us on the panel next year, please sign up. Let me know. Come and talk to us. I want to thank our fabulous, very inspiring, pioneering women today for talking to us. Thank you. I want to thank the Drooms marketing team for showing passion and excellence and innovation every single day. I want to thank all of the staff here. We come here every year. Thank you very much for helping us out. Have an amazing MIPIM. Can't wait to meet you all. Thank you.